Well, hello there. I do hope you're all well. Well, anyway, hands up those who watched the painful speech by the big orange galump Donald Trump the other night. Come on. Anyone at the back? Looks like it was just me and Kevin Logan then. Yes, I watched his absolute yelling on Kevin Logan's stream. Top class stream it was too. Really enjoyed it. Well, as usual, Trumple thin-skinned went through his greatest hits of racism, flat-out lies, and the usual struggle to grasp the English language to a point where I started to wonder whether the big orange man baby had been hit on the head one too many times by a golf ball. And that was before he reached the point where the copium about the election results started. My God, the amount of crying that man does. I wouldn't know whether to give him a tissue to dry his salty tears or a sloppy kiss. Well, since one-term President Donald Trump had been banned from social media and we've been treated to dull, boring politics in America, we've not been treated to the great banter between Nick Abbott and LBC American correspondent Simon Marks for a few weeks. Well, now that the cult leader has come out of his safe space and decided to spout how much of a shithole America is now under Joe Biden and how great America would have been if only the Republican Party had had the power to suppress democracy by throwing out votes that had a cross next to Joe Biden's name and just decide that Trumple thin-skinned is king to his cultists, well, it would be a crown shame not to bring back the Marks and Abbott double actor.
So, as you are probably aware, the Conservative Political Action Conference has been taking place in America. The fourth day was yesterday, and attendees were gearing up for the culmination of what was rumoured to be Donald Trump announcing a 2024 presidential run. It was described as Woodstock for election liars by CNN anchor Anderson Cooper. Joe Biden said he wasn't going to be paying attention to the gathering in Orlando, Florida. Ah, Orlando, the home of Mickey Mouse. And now that Mickey Mouse organisation called the Republican Party. Donald Trump, the former president, gave his first speech since leaving office in the world's biggest huff. The speakers were a roll call of kooks and crooks and cranks and cultists and weirdos, spouting unhinged aliens have hijacked my brain conspiracy nonsense to a rapturous crowd of credulous reality deniers. To put it in TV terms, the Republican Party has jumped the shark. And after a vomitous outpouring of barely believable delusions and hateful tripe, up stepped the mayor of Crazy Town. And then what happened, Simon Marks?
I think you've pretty much encapsulated it, Nick. I'm not sure I've got very much to add. Look, I mean, the first point to make is, panoramically, historically, this is extraordinary. None of us of any age has been alive to witness an ousted former president of the United States returning to the public stage 5 weeks after he departed the White House. When Jimmy Carter was ousted by the voters, when George H.W. Bush was ousted by the voters, there was no question whatsoever about them making any kind of political comeback. They were all done and dusted. Donald Trump used this to indicate that not only is he intent on making a political comeback and possibly running for office again in 4 years' time, but he used this to send an absolutely chilling, almost physically threatening posture to Republicans. He ended the speech by naming every single one of the Republicans in the House of Representatives who had voted for his impeachment, and then naming every single one of the Republican senators, the 7 of them, who crossed the aisle to vote with Democrats in favor of his conviction at his impeachment trial. And very much indicated that he, as he put it in the speech tonight, wants them gone. Now, you know, this is coming a month and a half after a violent mob of Donald Trump's conspiracy theory-believing supporters launched an insurrection on Capitol Hill. 5 people died by the time it was over. Just this week, the acting police chief on Capitol Hill testified before Congress that there is evidence and intelligence suggesting that that mob of Donald Trump supporters are plotting to blow up the congressional building when Joe Biden makes his address to a joint session of Congress in a few weeks' time. And yet here was President Trump, former President Trump, essentially setting his attack dogs on those Republicans in Congress who turned against him. It was a threatening and bellicose speech in its finale, although in order to get to the finale, first of all, he was 90 minutes late. And secondly, you had to wade through all the treacle of nonsense about the election being rigged when it wasn't, about the terrible things that he says Joe Biden is doing to the country, which he isn't. I mean, he claimed that Joe Biden had lifted all the sanctions that were in place against Iran. Well, that's just completely factually untrue. Indeed, the Iranians have told Joe Biden this weekend they won't talk to him because he hasn't lifted the sanctions that are in place against him. So you had to wade through this just absolute tsunami of lies and falsehoods in order to get to the meat of the speech, which was he's absolutely convinced that he is leading a movement that can be returned to power, and that he's going to lead that movement and make sure that it ousts those Republicans in House and Senate seats who committed, as he sees it, personal acts of treachery against him.
It's amazing that this painted clown off the telly has taken over the world's most powerful and richest political party, and they let him do it. They continue to let him do it. The people in the Republican Party that did not vote against him, that did not bury him when they had the chance, will live to regret it, because everybody that is in Donald Trump's orbit always ends as roadkill. How they can't see this is just beyond belief. It must be short-termism. They're just looking at the next election cycle, what's the most likely route that they can get to keep their jobs, and they're taking that. The idiocy of that decision is just beyond belief. They had the opportunity to bury him, and they passed it up.
And they've done that consistently, because remember, the party had the opportunity to bury him back in 2015 when he was battling all those other Republicans for the presidential nomination. And the party had concluded, and this is, the Republican National Committee had concluded he would be a total disaster, but they never got their act together at the time to bury him. And at every step of the way, they've continued to give him yet more rope. I mean, I'm old enough to remember, 2 weeks after the election, when he was beginning to advance the argument that it was rigged and it had been stolen, when senior Republicans on Capitol Hill were saying, well, what's the harm of just giving him a few more days to come to terms with the scale of his defeat? Well, the harm was the insurrection against the Capitol building on January the 6th. And now the captive nature of a Republican Party whose leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, votes to acquit at the impeachment trial, then immediately makes a speech on the floor of the Senate indicating that he thinks Donald Trump was guilty as charged, and yet this week said that if Donald Trump emerged as the presidential nominee in 2024, he would line up right behind him. A man that he has publicly accused of disgraceful dereliction of duty. But he's got them where he wants them. They're terrified of the people that he has unleashed and mobilized. And indeed, in the speech tonight, he again made the point that he is the man who has grown the membership of the Republican Party. And that's true. He has brought those people out of the QAnon dark corners of the internet where they used to cower, and he's brought them center stage, and they're his people. It was interesting tonight. He described himself as the leader of the conservative movement and the Republican Party. The Republican Party always comes second to his personal movement in his telling of where he's going.
The delusion that is in the minds of the people that support him is just, it's beyond belief. There's millions of people in America now who think that on March the 4th, Donald Trump is going to be re-elected as the 19th president of the United States of America? Because back in whenever it was, America ceased to become a country. It became a corporation in their minds. Don't ask me to explain it because I can't. But in their opinion, since 1800 and whenever, America hasn't been a country, it's been a corporation, so no president has been legal, could legally hold that office since. And so Donald Trump is going to be the president after Ulysses S. Grant, and it's all going to come as though it's been delivered by God on March the 4th. This is what these people actually believe. Is there something in the water in America?
Well, there might be something in the water in Florida. That's possible. I mean, with regard to that March the 4th thing, it's sufficiently serious in terms of the threat of various conspiracy theory-believing supporters descending on Washington on that particular day. At the Trump Hotel in the center of the city, they've jacked the room rates up for March the 3rd and March the 4th because they figured a lot of these people are going to stay in Donald Trump's hotel. But there were indications in Florida this weekend that some of them are hedging their bets because there's now not just talk about March the 4th, there's talk about March the 20th as being another possible day when the re-inauguration of Donald Trump as president is going to take place. Indeed, there's interviews on social media tonight with folks at that conference saying that, no, Joe Biden's not the commander-in-chief of armed forces. Donald Trump is the real commander-in-chief. Yeah. And he's going to unleash this martial law, this military coup that these people seem to crave in order to bring him back to power. But
it's a cult.
I mean, these are... It's a
religious cult.
Now.
It is a religious cult, and he is their leader who has been delivered by God in their minds. They're waiting for the rapture, for deliverance. That's what they're expecting, and they believe it with the same fervor that other religionists believe in Jesus and their God. Donald Trump has been sent by the Lord to save humankind in these people's mind. I mean, it just is beyond belief that somebody as ineffectual, as bad at his stated skill running a business as he is, this painted clown dancing to YMCA, who I only saw about the first 10 minutes of it, and he was twisting at the lectern like his underwear had ridden up, and he was trying to dislodge it without using his hands. Everything he does is ridiculous, and these people think that he has been sent by God. What is wrong with them?
It's definitely a curiosity. They did play YMCA again at the end of his speech. I'm bound to say I've never quite understood what that's about.
I don't understand that either. Do they not know what that song is? Maybe it's the only song he feels comfortable dancing to. I mean, he does have a particular style.
It is the only song whose creator hasn't also expressly been in touch with the Trump people to get them to stop using their music. So maybe it's the last thing that's out there. I don't know. It's very odd.
And he keeps saying, like I said, I only saw the first 10 minutes, so maybe it got better, but I doubt it. He started out by saying, "We will keep winning." The guy who just lost. This is the most. Saw the whole thing. Then this is the most. Saw the whole thing. This is the most incredible journey that anybody has ever been on. He went to the golf course and back.
His movement, he said, is the greatest movement of all time anywhere in the world, like no one's ever seen before.
And people who boast about going to Harvard and Princeton. But all of those geniuses who made speeches at CPAC before, they were on their feet applauding that preposterous painted clown. You just never can tell who will be revered as a godlike figure. I mean, if he can do it, maybe I could do it too. I think there's a lot of money in that religion business.
Well, he did actually, interestingly tonight, ask for donations. He said to his supporters that he's going to need their help and he wants them to back his political action committee. And there is, of course, that notion that for him, a lot of this is about the money, potentially. Whether he personally is serious about giving it another go in 4 years' time, whether the message that he delivered tonight, which certainly at the beginning of the speech was pretty low energy. Whether that can really carry him through 4 years, I think, is an open question.
Yeah, low energy. It was like he
money in the bank for him tonight.
Yeah, precisely. It was like he overdid the medication. Here, Simon, I got to go, but thanks for that. Keep your eye on
Cheers,
him.
mate.
All right. You won't be able to take your eye off him, not for a good long while. I hope that they get him on tax. I mean, wouldn't it be appropriate that the authorities get him on the same thing they got Al Capone?
Well, I totally agree. The Republican Party have jumped the shark. While he was talking the most batshit crazy and spouting the most pathetic victimhood, I've always found it baffling as to why these cultists just don't see it, that this con man is conning them, not just out of their money, but also conning them out of their intelligence as well, if they ever had any. But not long after the clown show had finished, I was finishing up some house cleaning and I noticed that Jack Yuga did a live stream doing a rundown of the cult leader's drivel. So I decided to watch it just out of interest and see if he had anything constructive and interesting to say. Well, he did give me a penny drop moment when he talked about how people like us don't find him funny or entertaining and just view him as a vicious clown. But he said Conservative voters see things differently. They view the world through a different perspective and are driven by fear, anger and greed, and that leads to hate. He then said that the con man, that is Donald Trump, morphed into the embodiment of the Republican voter, repeating countless meaningless slogans to see which ones would get the biggest applause, and stuck with them and kept on repeating them. They don't care about facts and are looking for an emotional release and validation. He then quoted something Stephen Colbert said, that reality has a well-known liberal bias. Then that made perfect sense to me. When I remember hearing his cultists who were chanting, "We love you, we love you." In the cultist mind, facts and reality is for those who are woke or whatever we are. And in a Trumpist's mind, liberals are the enemy of their one true leader. That quote made me realise that it doesn't matter what truth I speak. These people will view me as the enemy, and anything I say isn't their reality. But what do you guys think? Right, I shall leave the video until the next time. I shall bid you farewell. Bye for now.